Welcome to Padlet. Um, Here's our plan here. So I'm Janice Lewis. I'm the engineering teacher at Lawrence School. I teach 7th grade engineering. So I have every student at Lawrence eventually. If your child hasn't had me yet this year, if you're in 7th grade, then they will eventually. If they're in 8th grade, they had me last year. And our goal for today is to help families understand how we're using a program called Padlet to engage in in-person and remote learning and how it's helping us. So I'm going to start off with an overview and some examples. Padlet's basically, it's an online bulletin board where students and teachers can take information and ideas and they can either create that information or create posts with information. They can share ideas and information, or they can organize those ideas and information. And the really cool thing about Padlet, and one of the reasons I signed up right away to do this one, is that you can post in many formats. So students can share text, images, videos, web links, audio, drawings with with each other and with a teacher. And it's pretty flexible, but also pretty simple. So I thought the easiest way for you to get the hang of this is to just show you a bunch of examples. So I have a list here of many things that teachers and students can do, but I'm going to show you those examples live. So Padlet's it's posted on a website. And here is the simplest possible Padlet is just a bulletin board. This is one I made for my students about the engineering design process, and I just posted information for students to take in. But some of that information is in picture format, some of it's in text, some of it's in video format. You can even put little GIFs in there. There's different ways to post that information. Here's a more upper level one for an American literature course that has content, articles, videos, all sorts of different content related to one topic. So that's a way a teacher might give information to a student. And here's one more way. So this is a timeline of the Apollo mission. So students can get information in the format of a timeline. If I scroll across, you can see that a teacher has organized this for students. And I'm showing you right now ways that teachers can share information out, but students can do this as well. And then lastly, there's a map set up here where a teacher wanted to show students some of the tallest buildings in the world. So if you click on these, it will take you to links about each of the buildings that's located on the map. And you can do this for all sorts of things. So those are some ways, those are some examples of teachers putting information out into the world for students. And then we also can use Padlets to get information back from students. So as an example, one of our science teachers had students creating molecules with little 3D models of molecules, and they took pictures and they posted that to this Padlet here. So one of the teams did this fall. If I slow down, it will load. And so students at home and students in the classroom could all post their work in the same place in the hybrid setup. Here's another example. This is one, just a silly one I did to get students thinking earlier in the trimester about designing a squirrel-proof bird feeder. And students posted their drawings of their idea. And then in the classroom and online on Zoom, we had a much more robust conversation about what we were seeing. As you can tell, if you're posting pictures, you got to think a little bit about the light around your photo. So learning how to take a good photo, if you're going to ask students to take pictures, is kind of important, but it does work. And then this is an example from an English teacher in 7th grade. She's working on this right now. They're having a class discussion. So she came up with these columns across the top, or maybe the class did together, of themes that they are reading about in The Outsiders, the book in their English class right now. And then underneath each student, it says me, but that's because I copied it so that students' names wouldn't be made public here. Underneath, students posted quotes and connected those quotes to the themes in a column, so we can scroll through and see what the students were thinking. And it's a way for them to have a discussion online. In her classroom on a normal year, Miss Hennessy would have post-it notes on a big white paper or on the whiteboard with students' idea, and they would be organized that way. But here you can organize them in columns. And I did a more free-form one in engineering. This is a brainstorm students did, again, early on in the year. they were brainstorming how to personalize their learning space. We were trying to get them into the new school year. And originally it was a big mess of ideas, and students were able to link them and clump them. And we just practiced kind of taking ideas and organizing them. All of these posts on this page are draggable and connectable, and the students were the ones who decided to make it different colors. On this page, there's a structure to it that the teacher can select, so everything's more organized and you have a more less of a free flow discussion, and the teacher's helping point you in the right direction there. So those are some examples of Padlets. And the reason that teachers are really liking this and using this is because it makes thinking and learning visible, it was kind of tricky when you don't have a whiteboard all the time available. When you have students learning at home and in the classroom at the same time, how do we all put our ideas in the same place? So this is a way to do that. It helps students organize and connect their ideas when they have to move around and put ideas in the appropriate column or in the appropriate place. That really helps. And there's a dialogue piece to it too, where you can reply to somebody else's post. So you can say, oh, I had the same idea, and connect and build onto it. And then it's also, like I said, it's flexible, easy to use, easy to access. So those are the basics of why we're using it in the classroom, and some examples of what it could look like on the student's end, whether they're creating or the teacher is creating the pieces. So what's important maybe to you is, how do students access this? And as students are accessing Padlets, again, this is, we like it because it's pretty easy to get students to where they need to be generally on a Padlet. When I give them an assignment on a Padlet, I don't usually worry that they're going to go winging off somewhere strange on the internet. I usually can expect that students are going to get where they need to be. So there's a couple places, a couple ways they might access it. So if you're accessing Padlet, generally, most frequently, a teacher will post a link somewhere, and the student's just going to click on the link that the student posts, or that the student will click on the link that the teacher posts. Students can make Padlets, but it's more frequently teachers are the ones who are making Padlets. And in a minute, I'm going to post a link that you can click on if you would like to participate, so that can take you to a Padlet that you can contribute to, just the way a student would. Those links these days, as you know, are pretty much always posted in Schoology. So I'm going to pull up my Schoology page for you. I have a little practice Schoology page. I'll show you exactly what it looks like when a student sees one of these links on their Schoology page. So here's this is a just practice Schoology page I have, and I have my Padlet folder here. If I click into it, there's two ways a student might see a Padlet generally. If it's a link like this, if I click on it, it opens in a new window. And it looks like this. And this one is still to be added to. There's always a title up here, and then it's important that the one thing I don't like is these directions can be kind of small, so it's important the teacher writes directions here for what to put on the Padlet, and you should read that. They should make sure they read those directions carefully. Then the blank wall is here, and I put an example post on this Padlet. This one is set up so that everything goes in a grid format, but I could have set it up more freeform or as a map or as a timeline with any of those different formats. To add to the Padlet, students click the plus sign down here, and that will give a new blank post. They can delete it if they do it by mistake, or you can just double click on the wall. And then you can give it a title. So usually we often have students make their name the title, and then they can add things here. Blah, blah, blah for you guys. It's not that you're blah. And then if they need to add any kind of multimedia, they can do it here. So they could access their camera. I can't, well, oh, it will do it when I'm on Zoom. Okay, there we go. So it can access their camera. They can search the web or go to Google. They can, if they have a link to like a video that they already know, they can access that here and just paste in the link. And they can take files from the computer. These are files from a different Padlet, and they can post those here. And then if they click there, there's even other things. They can post a voice recording, a video. There's a bunch of, you can record your screen. There's a bunch of different ways that students can contribute. And then once they click away, it's saved, it's done, it's there. So they don't have to worry about it just disappearing. And I can set it up so that only the author can edit it, only the teacher can edit it, or all the students can edit and everybody can contribute. There's different ways to do that. Another way they could see a link to it in Schoology is like this. If I click here, sometimes Padlets are embedded in a Schoology page. So this opens within the Schoology page, not in a new tab, and I can still add from there. Or I can click this little box with an arrow and again, open into a new tab where I can more easily edit in a bigger format. I always tell students to open it to a new tab because that way they can really see what they're doing and see the whole thing, especially if their classmates are also contributing lots of ideas. So let's see. Other ways, so that's the most common way, but you could also, just like we can send you a link in an email, a student might get a link to a Padlet in an email or on a document. That's pretty much how you're going to get it. You're going to get the link. Students do also have Padlet accounts within the Padlet program. And within their Padlet account, if they sign in with their school Google account, they will get their name on their posts. So the way to do that, if I go to Padlet.com, I already went to it. Here's all my Padlets that I've made and shared with students. And each student has an account like this too. If they click on share, they'll see all the ones that teachers have shared with them. In the top right-hand corner, that's where they can log in and log out. So if I log out right now, it's going to close off all the Padlets I just showed you. So if I log out, I can show you how I log back in as if I were a student. And students should use their school Gmail account when they log back in. So when I get to Padlet.com and I click login, if they log in with Google, because we have the Google Apps for Education, if students click login with Google and then click on their school account, it will take them straight into their Padlet account. So students can do that if they're in a Padlet. It says I don't have any yet, so it's going to take a minute to catch up. Sometimes they panic when it's not there right away, but here it is. So if students open, and if they're in the middle of doing a Padlet and they realize they're not signed in, for example, on this one, if I wasn't signed in, I can go to the top right corner, click that button, and all that will do is put their name at the top of the post so that their teacher doesn't miss that they contributed. If they forget to write their name in the title, then it's okay. We still know you were there. Okay, so again, they should sign in with their Google account, and if they go to Padlet.com, they can create new Padlets or they can access old ones. If you're like, where did my teacher post that link? Anyone you've ever accessed will be there on your Padlet account as long as you were signed in. Padlet also has apps for tablets and phones, so you can access them that way. I find the apps to be a little bit clunky, but there are like smartphone apps, and you can sign into your account through Google there. I prefer to use them on the Chromebook. I prefer to access Padlets straight on the Chromebook because then you can really see everybody's ideas. The Padlet's less useful if you can't see the whole page at once. It's very tiny on a phone screen, but it can be done there if you have a student who's working in that way for some reason. So I thought I'd ask you guys if you wanted to practice. You don't have to. We have a small audience and it's not mandatory. But if you want to practice, there's a Padlet here that you could try posting on. And I can take the link. There's the link in my presentation, but you can't click on that and access it. So I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to put it in the chat of our Zoom here. And you can actually just click on that link and it should take you to our Padlet if you want to go to it. And then you can add to the Padlet, you can try it. I'm just gonna leave that link there so that you can check it out when you have time. Or if you wanna do it right now, that's fine. Or if you wanna come back to it later, I'll leave that link in the chat. And we can see if anybody posts anything on there. Sometimes, like if it's embedded in this slideshow here, I can click there and it'll go straight to it and we'll see it open up. And Thank you, Mr. Taylor. And if you see, it's working. So it's pretty simple there. And if you add an idea, it pops up right away. And students, this one is set up so the newest ones come up first, but I can set it up so they come out last. I can change the format so we could start organizing ideas together. This is a good one for a group project. If I have a group working in a breakout room, sometimes I'll give them a Padlet and they can record their ideas as they come out on a Padlet. And then later on, they can share their Padlet with the rest of the class. And I, as the teacher, can watch as they work and make sure everybody's on task, everybody's contributing. Okay, if we go to the next one, I just want to know if anybody has any questions. I think it's pretty straightforward. If you're worried about how students access, I can walk you through it a little slower. If you would like to see more examples, there's a whole bunch there that we can walk through, but I've showed you the main things that teachers are doing at Lawrence School. And that's the kind of the most straightforward stuff. Most of the time it's coming from a teacher. Students can create their own, but that's going to be next level. Is anybody wondering anything? Any other way that I can help you learn Padlet? Okay, we have silence out there. So thanks for joining. I'm going to stick around for a little bit and I'm going to jump over to that Padlet if anybody wants to try posting on there and playing around, and I can change the format of it. I am also going to put a link in the chat right now to the slideshow that I shared with you, so that if you wanted to open it and take a look, you could. And if you want to, you could click back. If I send you back a little bit here to the teachers and student page, there are many more examples of Padlets that you can take a look at. And you could take a look and see what other kinds of things we might do. But it's most powerful there if you're exploring the links on your own. So unless you have questions, thank you very much for joining me. And I will give you a copy of this in the chat right now.